Hello everyone and welcome to the channel, Travel with Coconut Joe. We spent over 6 weeks in Vietnam and would like to share our mistakes and tips with you. So let's get started. Mistake number 1 was filling out the e-visa. It was a rookie error and we forgot to put my husband's middle name on the application. You would think Coconut Joe wouldn't have a middle name, but he does. Fortunately, we realized immediately after applying and emailed them. They corrected the name without having to reapply or pay another $25. It just took an extra few days, so that was great. A couple other challenges we had was with finding the correct site. You want to make sure you're on the government site. It looks like this. I'll include a link in the description box. Lastly, we had a difficult time with taking and resizing our pictures. Therefore, we decided to go to CAA, and in 10 minutes and $10 each, we had a professional picture with a link for the site. I do know that other people have not had a problem with this, so give it a try yourself first. The e-visa takes 3 to 5 business days, but I would highly recommend starting the process a couple weeks ahead of time. Mistake number 2, checking a bag. Although under normal circumstances, this may not be an issue, but it was a huge problem for us. We started our journey with a 3-night stopover in Hawaii. Because it was such a great priced flight, it entailed a tight air schedule with multiple airlines. Our first flight was just a little delayed, but that progressed into us literally running through Toronto Airport to catch our next flight, which was already boarded. We were the last people on the flight, and my husband said, "I don't know how our bag is going to make it." Well, that's exactly what happened. It didn't make it. We spent many hours of our few days in Hawaii trying to track our luggage with the airline. When we finally succeeded on our second last day, we found out that our luggage was being returned home to Canada. No idea why, but it was too late to have it sent to us. Therefore, we had to scramble to buy essentials like sunscreen, a few clothing items, shoes, sandals, and a backpack to continue our journey to Vietnam. It was very stressful, but now I've learned the hard way how to pack super light and use only a carry-on. It's surprising how little you actually need. There is also laundry cheaply available everywhere in Vietnam. Mistake number 3, not booking a ride to our first hotel. I purchased an eSIM, which I relied on to function immediately upon arrival. And although I loved the eSIM for the remainder of the trip, it didn't work upon landing, which was probably an error on my part. Perhaps I left it on airplane mode or something. My plan was to use the eSIM to book a Grab to get to our first destination. But because the eSIM didn't work, I used the airport Wi-Fi to book the Grab. But the problem with that was trying to find the driver. It's an international airport and it's crazy busy. When I stepped outside the airport to the parking lot to look for the driver, I lost the Wi-Fi connection and then there was a lot of confusion. When I got to the hotel, I played with my settings and started the eSIM, and it was wonderful after that. It was my first time purchasing one, so it was another learning curve. I loved the fact of not having to replace your SIM card and not having to guard it for your entire trip. I used Airolo and it worked throughout the entire country, even when we were in the north and other people were unable to get a connection with their SIM card that they purchased from a hostel. I started with 30 days as a trial, and when that ran out, I easily extended it by purchasing a top-up, which immediately kicked in after the first part expired. So, my advice is this. Have your first ride booked from the airport to the hotel. You can do this through the hotel, or if you use Booking.com, they also offer a taxi. There are various ways. That way, when you arrive after a long, tiring flight, you can just walk out of the airport, find your driver holding up your name card, and away you go. Easy peasy. Mistake number 4, forgetting to use the Google Translate app. At times, there are language barriers, and you play the game of charades and realize later, why didn't I just use Google Translate? It came in handy with taxi drivers, hotel staff, and restaurants. The menus at the restaurants are usually in both languages and have pictures, which is very helpful. But definitely download Google Translate app for offline and you will find it very helpful. Mistake number 5, not doing enough research for a working travel credit card. Unfortunately, I had to contact my credit card / bank whenever I wanted to use my credit card online to purchase an inner flight or a tour or anything because they wanted to send me a text verification code to my phone, which wasn't working there to receive a text. Part of the reason, I'm sure, is because I don't have the bank app and I never do banking on my phone, but it was very frustrating, and I will be looking into different travel credit cards in the future. I'm from Canada, so if you have any suggestions, please leave me a comment on what has worked well for you. Mistake number 6, exchanging money. There are many money exchangers everywhere, however, their rates can vary. The best money exchange we found was the jewelry stores. Although we didn't see them in every area that we stayed in, we really only used them the last day in Hanoi. We were quite pleased with the exchange rate. Also, they give the best rates for $100 US bills in very good condition. Mistake number 7 is crossing the road. Something so simple back home is so difficult in Vietnam. You really just have to step into it when there's a small gap and keep a steady pace, don't stop, and the traffic just seems to go around you. After visiting Hanoi, personal space has a whole new meaning. The sidewalks are filled with motorbikes and little restaurant seatings and store items, so there's really no room to walk on a sidewalk. Therefore, you're forced to walk in busy traffic most of the time. Mistake number 8, tips. Although this is not really a mistake, it's something to really adjust to. Tips are not expected in Vietnam, but they are appreciated. We are so accustomed to giving tips for everything back home that we had some of the people giving us money back. They were confused. Why are we giving them a little extra money? And others were just very happy. It's truly not at all necessary to tip at every meal or every coffee, etc. Of course, on tours, when the service is really good, it's probably expected, but it took time for us to dial it back a bit. I, for one, wish tips were included in the price for services worldwide. What do you think? Speaking of tips, I'd just like to mention a couple more here for you. We started our trip flying at one end of the country and flying out at the other. The idea was to start in the south and allow time for it to get warmer in the north. This actually worked out very well. Although the north was still colder than we had hoped for, we were happy with this travel arrangement. It saved us a lot of time not having to backtrack to our original place. One last thing, if you're planning on renting a motorbike, it's a good idea to have an international driver's license. Although some smaller towns don't check for this when you rent them, I know for a fact that if you're going to the Hoi An loop, there are police checks where they will pull you over and look for it. And if you don't have one, you get a fine. Well, this is all for today. Hope you found some helpful tips here. If so, hit the like button and subscribe. Thanks for watching.